AP US History Video 17, British North American Policy from Dominion to Salutary Neglect. This is John Linneball from John Linneball Tutoring. Here's my website, johnlinneballtutoring.com. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you like this video. And if you don't like ads, why don't you try my site at testpreparation.locals.com. It's still kind of new, so if you have trouble subscribing or joining, please let me know, and we'll see if we can fix that. Okay, let's move on. Dominion to Salutary Neglect. The British Empire's way of running its North American colonies changed deeply from the late 1600s to the mid-1700s. In the 1680s, the British tried to enforce greater control over the colonies, to enforce mercantilism, and to consolidate several colonies into one governmental/political body. However, colonial resistance to these policies succeeded, leading to the British policy of salutary neglect in much of the 1700s, which led the colonies to develop without too much British oversight. From Charter Colonies to Crown Colonies. During the 1600s, the British Crown changed almost all the proprietary and charter colonies to royal, or Crown colonies, directly controlled by the king. In Virginia, this happened relatively early for the colonies, back in 1624, when King James I revoked the Virginia Company's charter because James was concerned about the excessive level of violence against Native Americans in Virginia, the high mortality rate among the colonists, and the generally poor management of the colony by the Virginia Company. And you can see my U.S. history video number 10 at 5 minutes and 16 seconds for information about King James's action and its relationship to the Virginia House of Burgesses. You can click the card above to go to that video now if you want. The Dominion of New England. The Dominion of New England was similar to the Spanish New World colonialism, especially the repartimiento. You can see video 3 towards the end if you want to learn about that. The Crown moved toward greater control of New England in the late 1600s following King Philip's War. You can see video 13. The split begins at, and here's the URL for it. I'll make sure that's in the description below, and I'll put a card up for that. King Charles II sent an investigator to examine the practices of New Englanders. Charles II disliked New England's Puritans, probably because the English Puritans executed his father, Charles I, during the English Civil War. That would annoy me if you killed my dad, so yeah, I could see why he wouldn't be too keen on people who killed his father, or the group of people that were responsible for his father's death. The investigator found New Englanders violated English colonial law in many ways. In 1686, Charles II revoked the charters of all colonies north of Maryland, combining them into the huge Dominion of New England. And so here you can see the Dominion of New England here. And let's move on. The Dominion of New England continued. The Dominion of New England was ruled by Sir Edmund Andros, who'd been appointed by King Charles II. Andros was very unpopular as he supported the Anglican Church and didn't enforce Puritan Sabbath laws and had a very stern demeanor and generally was very unaccommodating to the Puritans. For those reasons, New Englanders believed their rights as Englishmen were being violated, and the Dominion did not last long. Glorious Revolution. The Dominion of New England, as I just said, was short-lived, or short-lived, depending on how you want to pronounce that. Occurrences in England affected British North America. After King Charles II died, his brother James II became king in 1685. King James, pictured here, had recently converted to Catholicism, which bothered many of the English. However, James's daughter, Mary, had not converted, was a Protestant, and was the heir apparent to the throne. She was married to William of Orange, a Dutch prince and the leader of the Republic. However, in 1688, James's wife gave birth to a male heir who was Catholic, being the son of Catholics. He stood to become the next king, and his heirs would likely be future Catholic kings and queens of England. Kings and queens and guillotines. The Glorious Revolution continued. Parliament would not stand for a Catholic royal family. They overthrew James II in 1688 in a bloodless coup, so they didn't kill him, and basically handed the monarchy to William and Mary. To many, this marked the end of absolute monarchy in England, since if Parliament could actually remove a monarch, the king or queen obviously did not have absolute power. So certainly this empowered Parliament, since it meant the king or queen, really couldn't do things without consulting Parliament, and if it really annoyed Parliament, Parliament could actually remove you if you were the king. I'd argue that the power of the purse and other things already meant that monarchs didn't have absolute power before James II was overthrown, but I'm not an expert on British history, so hey, what do I know? And you can also see Charles II and Wikipedia's entry on the power of the purse. Of course, Charles II immediately preceded James II, so both were close in time. In any event, actually deposing a king is the ultimate assertion of power in a monarchy, so you can make your own decision here. This also led to the establishment of the restoration of colonial charters. The Glorious Revolution encouraged colonists in the Dominion of New England to arrest Sir Edmund Andros and dissolve the Dominion in 1689. That same year, New Yorkers led by Jacob Leisler took over from royal authorities. Andros's lieutenant in New York fled into exile, and the rebels seized Fort James in Lower Manhattan, establishing a new government. In Maryland, colonists overthrew absentee proprietor Lord Baltimore because they incorrectly believed Lord Baltimore, as a Catholic, had supported King James II in the Glorious Revolution. These revolutionary governments, again, were very temporary. So, there were gradual changes to government in North America. The end of the Dominion of New England and the overthrow of Andros did not end the British oversight of the American colonies. The new colonial charters made the colonies the royal and crown colonies, same thing, royal colony and crown colony are the same thing, and they were bound even more tightly to the empire than before. By 1691, the colonies had new governors. Massachusetts's charter, heavily influenced by Puritanism, was replaced by a typical colonial charter. For example, voting rights in Massachusetts were no longer based on church membership, but on property ownership. During the Glorious Revolution of 1688, the French and their Native American allies attacked northern New York and New England in King William's War. See Video 12, Contact, Disease, and Demographic Change for Native Americans, Imperial Conflict, and North American Political Instability. Here's the URL. We'll also have that in the lower description, and I'll put a card up here. The colonists understood from the French and native attacks that they needed British protection, so for the time being they had to be loyal to the British Empire. Salutary Neglect, loose British control that led to colonial development. Following the Glorious Revolution of 1688 and the Dominion of New England 1686 to 1689, Britain tried to draw the colonies closer to itself through new colonial charters, governors, etc. Physical distance, that is the Atlantic Ocean, and the costs associated with enforcing mercantilist and other imperial laws from across an ocean forced the British to loosen their control over the 13 colonies. Prime Minister Robert Walpole from 1721 to 1742 became associated with this policy of salutary neglect because he advocated for non-interference with the profitable colonial trade. This caused colonial prosperity, but also independent culture and politics. So obviously, cultural and political differences led to the American Revolution. But that wouldn't be for a while yet. Did you find this video useful? Please like it and subscribe to my channel. Neither action costs you anything. You'll be alerted about my new videos. Why do I care? It's simple. YouTube doesn't let me share any ad revenue unless I have 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours. That's 240,000 minutes of view time in a year. While many people are watching these, I don't have 4,000 hours of watch time. I also don't have 1,000 subscribers at this time. And again, if you want to see this without ads, you can join my community at testpreparation.locals.com. For the same reasons, you're not only welcome, but encouraged to share links to this video, put it in playlists, etc. I'm always happy to read and respond to constructive criticism or suggestions for new videos.
I'd appreciate your input.
I do reserve the right to delete comments from and block those who specialize in destructive criticism, trolls, or things that are off topic, spammers and disturbed people. You can also hire me for tutoring. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for my contact information and an important disclaimer. Facebook. All right, if you want to contact me on Facebook, you can go to www.facebook.com/Linneball Tutoring. Always a great idea to like that page, so that way you can help me out a little bit more. And you can also see things that I put on there. Instagram, you can go to instagram.com/john.linneball.tutoring. Phone, you can go to 415-623-4251. Email, john@johnlinneball.com. Website, www.johnlinneball.com or johnlinneballtutoring.com. Testpreparation.locals.com again. And if you want to send me snail mail, that is postal mail, you can you can mail John Linneball Tutoring, 1859 Powell Street, number 109, San Francisco, California, 94133. And note, this is not a substitute for your classes, text, etc. This video is based on the Barron's AP United States History Review Book, 4th edition, and any other sources listed in the video description and my general knowledge of U.S. history. Basically, in the description, there'll be some Wikipedia links and links to other videos, etc. So you can always check those out if you want to check my sources. While this should help you do well on the AP U.S. History exam, I cannot be responsible for what your teacher thinks is important and asks you about in or on his or her own tests, homework, etc. So please read your class text and pay attention to what your teacher says in class. And with that, I'm out of here. Have a good one.